And we begin tonight with that history just moments ago, the start of humanity's return to the moon. You just saw it. We just felt it. The launch of Artemis II. There it is, the most powerful rocket to ever lift off with humans aboard. 4 of them now on a mission to ensure NASA's new Orion space capsule can sustain human life. It's an impressive picture before traveling around the moon for the first time since the Apollo era and paving the way to once again land there on future missions. Most of us were not even alive the last time this happened, which is why today's launch has generated so much excitement here on the Space Coast. Families gathering to watch history unfold before their eyes. The first lunar mission to include a woman on board, the first to include a person of color. But even in this new era, there was some familiar NASA pomp and circumstance, the crew suiting up in the very same room as the Apollo and shuttle crews before them, walking through the very same doors, saying goodbye to their families before leaving Earth. Watching it all with us here, senior national correspondent Mark Strassman and senior space consultant Bill Harwood, plus Rob Marciano with a huge crowd and a view from Space Park in Titusville. But I want to go to Mark first on the roof. Mark, there was an overwhelming experience watching that shuttle just moments ago blast off. It's an emotional experience. And yet, just before, there was this no-go moment. It seemed like it wasn't going to happen. What happened? How'd they fix it?
Well, you're absolutely right, Tony. I mean, for a man-made thrill, a rocket launch, especially an SLS rocket launch, is very hard to beat. But you're right. 2 hours before launch, roughly, we were in a no-go posture, not a scrub posture, but a no-go posture. It was the first of 2 separate issues involving safety systems on the rocket, and one actually on the capsule with the launch abort system. But those issues were fairly quickly resolved, and I was told that, in fact, it never really came close to a scrub. They couldn't fly unless they resolved them, but they resolved them, and then they were apparently fairly confident that they would. Now begins the nitty-gritty of the business of getting both into orbit, now that they're in, and then out of orbit and on their way to the moon. The solar arrays have just deployed and latched. That will give the capsule solar power. Without that power, you're not going to the moon. So that is the next milestone. It has now been complete, and now the crew is going to spend the first day in space. Going through all the systems of the capsule, especially the life support system. Remember, this is a test flight. A crew has never flown in this capsule in space before, and they've got to get it all checked out on this remarkable moment and a very significant test flight for NASA if they hope to land on the moon with Artemis IV, which is now scheduled for sometime early in 2028. Tony?
Yeah, they were waiting. Now they're working. That's right, Mark. I want to go to Bill now. Bill, it was emotional watching that thing lift off. How big of a moment is this for NASA? What did they just achieve?
I think it's a huge moment for NASA, a very dramatic first step in a revitalized moon program that the agency hopes will lead to regularly scheduled moon landings and eventually the establishment of a moon base near the lunar South Pole. Obviously, there's a race going on with China right now who plan to put their own people on the moon by 2030. That's a race NASA wants to win. But it's really going to come down to congressional and White House support over multiple administrations. And, of course, Elon Musk's SpaceX and Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin have got to perfect the landers that will carry the astronauts to the surface. And that's an open question right now as to how soon those will be ready to fly.
That is an open question. NASA has done its part. Artemis II is in launch right now, and yet the lander that would bring them to the moon has not been tested, does not exist. SpaceX hasn't produced it. Blue Origin hasn't produced it, so that's the next stage of this to root for. But it is a major milestone.
No question about it. No question about it. Watching that rocket take off, an emotional moment, I think, for everybody at the Space Center. Huge achievement.
And it shook the whole building we're in right now. Bill, thank you very much. Mark, thank you very much. Now let's head over to Space View Park, just up the coast from here in Titusville, where a giant crowd had gathered to watch the launch. Sounds like they're still celebrating there. Rob Marciano, what was it like?
It was a roller coaster, Tony. I mean, probably over 200,000 people lined this side of the lagoon and looked across the way 4, 5, or 6 miles to watch this thing go up. And it was a long afternoon of waiting and watching and hearing the delays and thinking about the weather and seeing the showers come through. And then it happened. And for a lot of people that travel across the country, it was well worth it. And we have this family that came in from Colorado Springs. We met them at 7 o'clock in the morning. You got here at 1 o'clock last night. Has it been worth it, Mom?
Oh, totally. Just historical moment, and seeing it with the kids and seeing it through their eyes is just priceless.
But we were all very nervous that it wouldn't happen because they're flying back tomorrow, regardless, to get these kids back to school. Adelaide, earlier you said this is the coolest thing you've ever seen. You think you'd want to be up on that rocket right now?
Maybe not on it, but like I want to be a part of mission control someday, and that really made me want to even more.
I could totally see you in mission control. How about you, Carlia? Would you like to be an astronaut?
Maybe.
I don't know if I could do it. It looks they're pretty brave up there, and I'm so psyched that you guys are here. We're able to experience it, and they're one of thousands, tens of thousands of Americans that came to celebrate this communal experience of awe and right now joy. Tony?
It's a beautiful thing, Rob. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. It was a really significant moment here. Tonight, if everything goes as planned, the crew of Artemis II will break away from Earth orbit and start toward the far side of the moon. Meanwhile, our senior national correspondent, Mark Strassman, has made his way from the Kennedy Space Center launch site in Florida to the mission control site at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. And he joins us now from our special CBS newsroom there. Mark, good evening.
Good evening, Tony. This afternoon, there was a defining decision here in Houston about this crew that spent the day testing out their capsule systems. NASA gave the OK to turn this mission into a true moonshot.
We are go for TLI.
All right, Jeff, we love those words, and we're loving the view.
With that NASA go-ahead now out of the way, this crew's views will only grow more out of this world.
We've got 2 moon rises that we've had so far, and the views of planet Earth. We've circled it completely, and we forgot how beautiful it is to look down on Earth.
Yeah. And Earth still awed.
Everyone is really interested in this. Yeah. I mean,
by the sight of Artemis taking flight.
They're going to the moon!
It's been a busy 24 hours testing out the Orion capsule, especially its life support systems. The mission's next step, the TLI engine burn or translunar injection. By firing its main engine for nearly 6 minutes, Orion will escape the pull of Earth's gravity and head for the moon 250,000 miles away, nearly 1,000 times farther than the International Space Station, and days away from Earth if a problem develops.
The scale does change it.
Victor Glover is Artemis II's pilot. How do you wrap your head around the distance and the risks involved?
It's not like coming to grips with this one big thing. It's learning the pieces and the people and then trusting that whole system to work together.
We've been flying in low Earth orbit here for the last few decades, and I think we've gotten fairly used to it. And going to the moon is it's a lot different.
Jeff Radigan is the mission's lead flight director. He'll be in the hot seat when NASA sends this crew deeper into space than any crew before. Greater distance equals greater risk. If there was some kind of an emergency after TLI, you had to come home, how would that work?
That's back to the risk of going to the moon, is we don't really have the ability to turn around. We're going to the moon and then we're coming home.
The trip to the moon will take 4 days, and that will set the stage for a record-breaking long-distance lunar flyby on Monday afternoon.
Tonight, the 4 astronauts on the Artemis II mission have passed the halfway point between Earth and the moon. NASA has also been looking back, releasing these marvelous images of Earth taken from the capsule. CBS's Mark Strassman is in Houston at Mission Control following this historic journey. Mark.
Hey, Jerika, just had the chance to talk to the crew nearly 180,000 miles from Earth. This has clearly been a moving experience for them, but also the thrill ride of a lifetime.
Even though we lived on space station for a collective 2 years, we have seen and felt things that we have never felt before from that.
We talked to the moon-bound Artemis II crew from our CBS News Space Bureau in Houston. You'll be on one side of the moon. Everyone else on Earth will be on the other. You'll be focused on the mission. What do you hope the rest of us are thinking about?
If you can just think about what it means to be together and what it means to be apart from your loved ones during that time and reflect on that, maybe we'll all come to a realization.
This otherworldly image shows the crew's destination straight ahead. Flight director Judd Freeling.
It's pretty amazing. I mean, as a human race, we're explorers, right? And we're getting to that, exploration again, to be far out.
On Monday, the crew will curl around the moon's far side for a 3-hour lunar flyby. At one point, Houston will lose all communication with the crew for 40 minutes.
It's not just the beauty that we're observing this.
Christina Cook told us before launching, the crew will alternate taking lunar pictures in teams of 2.
We are going to be in lockstep so that we maximize every minute of looking at that far side.
With every passing second, the crew leaves the rest of us farther behind.
You have this amazing place, this spaceship. You guys are talking to us because we're in a spaceship really far from Earth, but you're on a spaceship called Earth that was created to give us a place to live in the universe, in the cosmos.
4 days into this moonshot, they seem in great spirits. One capsule update, it is having a pesky issue with its toilet system, but all in all so far, this capsule has aced its flight test. Jerika?
So many people praying for the best. Mark Strassman, thank you. Well, tonight, the Artemis II crew is closer to the moon than ever before. They've also captured this new photo of the far side of the moon. CBS's Mark Strassman is at the Johnson Space Center covering it all. Mark, good evening.
Good evening, Jerika. Along with looking out the window, the crew has been taking pictures using a digital camera and a 400-millimeter long lens. And what they have seen has stunned them.
It's incredible. Wow.
With a view like this, you could hear it in their voices. One of Easter's timeless themes, gratitude.
It is phenomenal, and the moon we are looking at is not the moon you see from Earth whatsoever.
It's day 5 for Artemis II's test flight, and we had the chance to ask the crew, then 180,000 miles from Earth, what all of us have wondered. We've all watched a waxing moon from Earth. What's it like to watch the moon grow from space?
We were catching glimpses of the far side, the side that you can never see from Earth. It just looked different out the window, and that is wild. It just really put our place in the universe in perspective.
Tomorrow night, the Orion capsule will loop around the moon's far side, setting a new distance record from Earth. For a time, NASA will lose all communication with the crew. 40 minutes of radio silence, but no one's worried.
We'll take a break, a breather, probably some good times to reflect, and we'll meet them on the other side.
Love yourself and love others.
The crew also wished everyone back on Earth a happy Easter. Do you have a message you'd like to share from space about Easter Sunday?
You guys are talking to us because we're in a spaceship really far from Earth, but you're on a spaceship called Earth that was created to give us a place to live in the universe. Trust me, you are special. In all of this emptiness, whether you believe in God or not, this is an opportunity for us to remember where we are, who we are, and that we are the same thing and that we got to get through this together.
That message from Glover has resonated. NASA posted it to all of its social media platforms, and Jerika, it's already been viewed almost 19 million times.
I believe it. I could see why. Mark Strassman, thank you.
Nearly 250,000 miles away from all of it today, the crew of Artemis II hit the farthest point in space anyone has traveled before. And once the crew finishes its voyage around the far side of the moon tonight, cameras at the ready, we'll get to see what they're seeing. Senior national correspondent Mark Strassman has late developments now from Mission Control in Houston.
It is awesome to see the side of the moon.
Artemis II is over the moon, Earth's first lunar visitors in more than a half century.
The team and the Artemis II crew are ready to begin their lunar flyby.
A lunar flyby passing within 4,000 miles of the moon's surface.
It's just like we're a bunch of little kids up here. We cannot get enough of this.
The crew earlier set a new long-distance space record, nearly 249,000 miles away from the rest of us. That's deeper into space than Apollo 13 in 1970.
We, most importantly, choose this moment to challenge this generation and the next to make sure this record is not long-lived.
The crew also named 2 craters on the moon's far side, one poignantly for a pediatric nurse and mother of 2, Commander Reed Wiseman's late wife, Carol. She died of cancer in 2020. Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen's voice cracked, naming the crater.
It's a bright spot on the moon, and we would like to call it Carol.
Mission Control watched hushed. The crew hugged. Their lunar flyby curled around the moon's far side, about 20% of it illuminated. The crew will spend hours taking pictures. Among the most giddy about the big moment, NASA scientists. The crew will capture images of the moon's surface never seen before by human eyes.
This room is going to be filled with a lot of very excited scientists.
Kelsey Young's guiding the science for this moon mission. She told us what astronauts see could tell more than their photographs.
For lunar geology, human eyes are a fairly sophisticated scientific instrument.
Absolutely, especially when they're connected to those brilliant astronaut brains.
We talked over the weekend to the crew about this flyby. You'll be on one side of the moon, everyone else on Earth will be on the other. You'll be focused on the mission. What do you hope the rest of us are thinking about?
Gratitude that out of this huge universe, we get to live together on Earth, planet Earth. If you can just think about what it means to be together and what it means to be apart from your loved ones during that time and reflect on that, maybe we'll all come to a realization.
Tony, on the far side of the moon, the crew lost line of sight with Earth and all radio communication. Radio silence for roughly 40 minutes. It bears repeating. 4 people on one side of the moon and the rest of us on the other. Tony?
Mark Strassman continuing just incredible coverage of this chapter for history tonight. Thank you. We're back with the good stuff tonight, a night where we don't know what the day may reveal tomorrow, and I don't need to tell you that there are plenty of reasons to be worried right now. But one of the things we try to do here is to give you perspective. And there is no greater perspective right now than the image we just got back today from the crew of Artemis II. Earthset, it's called, a picture that channels the beauty of an earlier photo known as Earthrise from Apollo 8, the very first mission around the moon back on Christmas Eve, 1968. It was such an amazing image in such an otherwise awful year of war and political violence, and the astronaut who took it, William Anders, knew immediately why it mattered. Quote, "We came all this way to explore the moon," he said, "and the most important thing is that we discovered the Earth." Over 50 years later, the Artemis crew has made that very same point, perhaps never more clearly than Victor Glover this past Easter weekend as he looked at all of us on Earth looking up at him.
Maybe the distance we are from you makes you think what we're doing is special, but we're the same distance from you, and I'm trying to tell you, just trust me, you are special. You have this oasis, this beautiful place that we get to exist together.
There was also a promise for all of us from Artemis II mission specialist Christina Cook as the crew began its journey back to Earth. "We will explore," she said. "We will visit again. But ultimately, we will always choose Earth. We will always choose each other." To see the Earth clearly is to see ourselves clearly. And in that way, it's an opportunity to remember that we are, in the end, the same, sharing the same beautiful planet, whatever tomorrow may bring. The crew of Artemis II is once again in the pull of Earth's gravity tonight as her capsule speeds at 2,000 miles an hour toward a splashdown off Southern California. Senior national correspondent Mark Strassman has the latest from Mission Control in Houston.
NASA just released these dazzling photos, moon shots from the moon ship. The crew's view out their cabin window, a solar eclipse seen from the moon's far side.
We just went sci-fi.
For all this test flight's thrills, it's no success to NASA until the crew returns safely on Friday.
When we enter the Earth's atmosphere,
Flight Director Rick Henfling showed us how the Orion capsule will re-enter Earth's atmosphere. We talked to him at his desk in Mission Control.
There's always things that we haven't thought of that will crop up and have us scratching our heads.
So what keeps you up at night is what I haven't potentially thought about.
It's the unknown unknowns.
The recovery ship is on its way to the splashdown site near San Diego. Navy divers will remove the crew from the capsule. From the USS Mirtha, NASA Recovery Director Lila Villarreal will oversee the operation.
Big responsibility, do you feel it?
It's a huge responsibility. I mean, not only just our lives and also the spacecraft, but making sure that we are prepared for that landing.
Artemis II took thousands of pictures. This one matters most.
At what point are you able to exhale?
Once the side hatch is open and we see 4 astronauts sitting on the raft that gets set up in front of the spacecraft, that's when we can all exhale.
Tony, we'll hear more from those 4 astronauts later tonight. They're going to hold their first media briefing from space since that dramatic flyby. Tony?
Mark, thank you very much. Live from Houston. And how about the weather for this Artemis II homecoming? Meteorologist Rob Marciano is tracking that and the weather from coast to coast. All right, Rob, how's it looking?
Well, for as nice as the San Diego coast can be, it doesn't look picture perfect. Let's go over the rules for this splashdown. You can't have the wind that's over 29 miles per hour. You can't have any sort of precipitation or lightning within 35 miles an hour. And those wave heights need to be under 6 feet. And we don't have high pressure under control here. We've got a big trough that's going to be digging in. So it'll bring Northern California rain and Southern California rain Friday night, but it should hold off until the splashdown occurs. Winds 12 miles per hour. Wave height should be 3 to 4 feet, but certainly a chance of weather being a factor there. Meanwhile, we've got weather being a factor in Florida. If they were to launch this week, they wouldn't get up. It's been a mess all week long. Big time rain, big time wind. It feels like a tropical storm there. And we've got flood watches that are up for a good chunk of southern Florida this morning. Meanwhile, frost and freeze alerts for the Northeast. Boston, New York, Philadelphia could be below freezing mark tomorrow morning. A big pattern change will warm things up next week. That will also bring in the threat for seeing severe weather with that system that may impact the Artemis splashdown on Friday. Tony?
All right, Rob, thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jerika Duncan in for Tony DeCopel. Anticipation is building for tonight's return to Earth for the crew of Artemis II. The astronauts are making their final preparations before their historic mission splashes down in the Pacific Ocean off San Diego. The Orion capsule will return to Earth's atmosphere, topping 24,000 miles per hour. Flying at that speed would get you from New York to Los Angeles in just 6 minutes. Another major factor, temperatures of up to 5,000 degrees with only a heat shield to protect the astronauts. Let's get right to senior national correspondent Mark Strassman in Houston. Good evening, Mark. We're finally here.
Good evening, Jerika. You're right. We are finally here. The capsule right now is moving more than 11,000 miles per hour and getting faster and faster the closer it gets to Earth. Still ahead for everyone is a critical moment and a dicey moment. Re-entry. With Earth growing bigger by the second, Integrity's crew woke up in space one final time to the song Run to the Water.
Can't wait to see you run to the water. See you soon.
Time for a few final space pictures.
We're going to need a copy of that photo when you guys get back.
Christina Cook got thinking about a childhood vacation to the Kennedy Space Center.
And we were posing in front of the Saturn V rocket with my siblings and my parents. And if I could have told that little girl who took home a picture of Earthrise and hung it in her room that she would eventually launch from that same place to see that same view, I'm pretty sure she would not believe it.
We've been in disbelief about their glimpses of the cosmos. For 9 days, this crew has been riding high. Now it's time to come to Earth.
There's no question that we'll all be anxious.
NASA's anxious because re-entry in Earth's upper atmosphere is always risky. A 6-minute communications blackout. A capsule streaking roughly 24,000 miles per hour. Temperatures predicted to reach up to 5,000 degrees.
We have high confidence in the system and the heat shield and the parachutes and the recovery systems we put together.
On Artemis I's re-entry in 2022, no one was aboard. But in a cloud of superheated plasma, chunks of the capsule's heat shield broke off. NASA was alarmed. Its solution, keep the same type heat shield, changed the trajectory of re-entry.
Let's not beat around the bush. We have to hit that angle correctly. Otherwise, we're not going to have a successful reentry.
A naval recovery team for the crew sailed off the coast of San Diego. It's the first splashdown ever for the Orion capsule with astronauts inside.
We can't wait to see the dive team and the Navy that are going to come and pick us up.
In less than 90 minutes, the capsule will begin re-entry 76 miles above the Pacific, southeast of Hawaii. Parachutes will deploy in 3 phases, and then 13 minutes later or so, we should see the splashdown of Artemis II. Jerika?
So many of us excited and nervous at the same time, Mark. Thank you. We'll have live coverage of tonight's return to Earth for the crew of Artemis II beginning at 7:30 Eastern, followed by an all-new CBS primetime lineup. All right, again, we're looking at the live picture, and we just see it getting closer and closer very quickly. about 20 minutes away, potentially from splashdown. Joining us now is Jana Levin, a CBS News contributor and professor of physics and astronomy at Barnard College. Professor, what do you think the impact of this mission will ultimately be?
Well, we're back in our journey exploring both the solar system, but also, in some sense, more of Earth. It's thought that the moon is actually part of the Earth, that there was this cataclysmic collision 4.5 billion years ago when the Earth was forming, and that material, some of it fell back to Earth, but a big chunk of it became our moon. So in some sense, I think we're really expanding our horizon of what we think of as home.
We have crossed the threshold now.
And again, looking at those live pictures, getting closer and closer, Jana, the Artemis II crew, they are now roughly 400,000 feet above Earth and about to make their first contact with the upper atmosphere. During this time period, they will enter a radio blackout for 6 minutes due to the plasma formation around the Orion capsule upon hitting the atmosphere. Let's take some time to listen in to Mission Control.
And as predicted, we've entered our communications blackout. This will be a 6-minute blackout period. No voice, no data from the crew. We're 30 seconds away from the anticipated point of peak heating on the vehicle, where temperatures will rise to about 4,000 to 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the true test of our trajectory. And from the G5 aircraft in the vicinity of the splashdown zone, this view of integrity. So that pinpoint of light shows the vehicle as it enters the period of peak heating in the Earth's atmosphere, the first tug of gravity being felt by Integrity's astronauts since their launch back on April 1st. Four and a half minutes until the end of the blackout period. Time to splash down, 11 minutes, 33 seconds.
That little dot was.
You are looking at what appears to be a ball of fire moving at a pace that it is not normal. This is a visualization, excuse me.
The landing and support officer
but this is essentially what is happening. Sunny, your reaction?
An exciting time. Obviously, you know, we can't talk to the ground because during these time frames when we're coming in, because of this ball of fire that's all around us.
Yes.
And the windows, they'll be able to see, you know, plasma going by the windows that we do in all the other spacecrafts. You see the spacecraft sort of change color, you know, around because of that outside of the window. So they're probably seeing some of that plasma right near as they're looking out the windows. You know, Reed and Victor right there. So pretty exciting time frame. You know what's going on. Like Victor mentioned one time in one of the interviews, riding a ball of fire into the atmosphere is a little exciting. But
what does it feel like? Are the G-forces, and then does it get warmer inside the capsule?
No, it doesn't get warmer inside. That's the capsule is made for that. The heat shield is made for that. This entry was made specifically knowing that they had some issues from before. And so, no, you don't feel the heat inside, but you can just see what's going on around you. You'll start feeling the G-forces since they've started coming into the atmosphere. So like I said, now they're getting a little bit pushed, and the G-forces change during the entry. So there's a couple times that it feels like it's pushing down on you, then it will let up, and then it'll push down on you again. So you know you're coming home. This is obvious time right now that you know that you're coming home.
Yeah, and Sunny, thank you for that description. I want to turn to former astronaut Nick Hague. Nick, what do you remember about the experience, and Are you smiling at this point? Are you nervous? Like what's the feeling as you're entering, back, getting ready for that splashdown?
Yeah,
Walk us through that.
It's an assault on the senses. Sonny hit it right. I look out the window and you get this light show, which is amazing when you think about the physics behind the heat shield and how it slowly melts away and burns away and brings you and slows you down. But you also get a lot of sound. You're out in the vacuum of space and there's not a lot of sound that you hear as you interface with the very upper atmosphere. But as you get deeper into the atmosphere, you start to hear wind noise, and you really get a sense for the speed that you're going. It's a pretty amazing ride.
Wow. Again, a visualization. Although Rob and I both were like, oh, my gosh, it's happening.
And you talk about this inferno outside your window like it's, an everyday thing. It's just, at any point during your mind when you go through one of these reentries, do you think, oh, I hope this heat shield works here?
Oh, again, to talk about the team, a decade of people really crossing the T's and dotting the I's, making sure, we've taken all the lessons learned on spacecraft beforehand and incorporating into that. So we have a lot of trust. There's a lot of trust in this business and in our team to make sure that they do the right thing.
And is there any chit-chat going on during this blackout period?
I'm sure they're looking at each other, and probably the color inside of the spacecraft's a little bit different because of the plasma. I remember on Soyuz, everybody looked a little bit, the whole inside looked a little bit pink because we have windows on the side. So yeah, I'm sure they're looking around and talking to each other about it.
Well, NASA is about to reestablish contact with Mission Control, so we want to listen in and hear what they have to say.
We are now processing data from Integrity. Landing and support officer reports the small boats are en route to the splashdown target zone. Passing through 150,000 feet, our trajectory is perfect. We're getting intermittent views of Integrity. Still waiting to establish voice communication.
Integrity, Houston, comm check, post-blackout.
Houston, Integrity, we have you loud and clear.
Your trajectory is nominal, and your recovery teams have visual.
Guidance looks good.
No action for the enabled internal camera controller fail.
Big cheers from the viewing room here in Mission Control as
everything looking good as we're just listening to Mission Control talk about the data that they're already processing as the capsule makes its way to its splashdown. I want to turn to you, Dave, because now we're at the point where they're talking about the boats getting ready. Again, this is something that, you've planned. This is years in the making. What's going through the minds of those who are there, and they're also getting this information in real time.
So as everybody's tracking everything, they're just executing what they've been trained to do. So it's game on for everybody there. Everybody's excited. Everybody's happy to hear from the crew now that they have contact back. And everybody's going to start moving closer and closer to the capsule and ready to extract the crew from the spacecraft.
And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that's what we're seeing right there, that first.
It is. So that is one of the small boats moving in. So everything is precise based on time. Mm-hmm. And as time goes on and debris gets tracked and stuff like that, they'll actually move closer and closer to the spacecraft.
Integrity impact to the camera controller fail.
And right now the ship is headed in from one of their checkpoints as well to get closer.
When you think about what is gained from some of what we're learning and the idea of possibly being able to go even beyond the moon one day. Why did it take so long?
Time to splash down 4.5 minutes.
Well, you know, we spent the last couple decades building the International Space Station and flying the Space Shuttle to learn about how we operate in low Earth orbit. And we've learned so much from that it's sort of opened the door. You know, of course, technology as it comes in computers, but also manufacturing, all of that has changed over the last like 3 decades and allows us to build these amazing spacecraft nowadays that allow the crew members to take those observations, which was, oh, there it is.
And then you have a NASA plane right now capturing Artemis II, making its way down. Again, we know that the speed at this point is, I believe we're at about, I want to listen to mission control, but I'm not sure if we're at the maximum or if we've passed that period yet.
I think we're subsonic now.
We're subsonic, so they probably heard the boom.
Yeah.
And still no parachute. There you go.
Oh, there's the parachute.
And
Okay.
there go the first series of parachutes.
And we're about 4 minutes
and
away.
we're on drogues.
Yeah.
You hear people cheering.
Here we go. Yeah.
2 drogues out the window.
Look at that.
2 good drogue shoots. Next up.
We copy. We see them.
Next up, the deployment of pilot parachutes that will pull the main chutes out. Time to splash down 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Perfect descent rate according to flight dynamics.
Good rates on 2 drogues.
We see the same on board.
Passing through 10,000 feet, still on drogues. Main chute deploy. We're at 5,000 feet. Search and recovery beacon has been activated on integrity. And we have 3 good main chutes. Good 3 main chutes, good reefing, good descent rate.
Good rates, and we see 3 good-looking parachutes. Integrity. Cabin pressure indicates no need for hydrazine checks.
Integrity copies.
This is a perfect descent for integrity. Its crew sounding hale and hearty on board. Time to splash down 1 minute, 15 seconds. Integrity about to complete a journey spanning 694,481 miles from its launch from the Kennedy Space Center back on April 1st, and a trip around the moon. Passing through 1,000 feet.
Integrity, splashdown, sending post-landing command now.
Splashdown confirmed.
Copy splashdown, waiting on VLDR.
Splashdown confirmed at 7:07 p.m. Central Time, 5:07 p.m. Pacific Time. From the pages of Jules Verne to a modern-day mission to the moon, a new chapter of the exploration of our celestial neighbor is complete. Integrity's astronauts back on Earth. And the landing and support officer reports the vehicle is stable 1. We still will be deploying the crew module uprighting system to maintain that orientation. A perfect bullseye splashdown for Integrity and its 4 astronauts.
We are all breathing a sigh of relief. So much excitement. We're clapping with everybody else.
So good.
We're watching it. As you just heard, Rob Navias, the NASA commentator there, saying that this was pretty much a perfect landing with precision, the way that it oriented itself. Sunny, Dave, give us your thoughts as you're watching, as you're seeing everything work the way that it's supposed to.
I'm super excited for these guys. And, you know, it's funny because you do this like check, check, check as one thing after another. As we were watching all the parachutes come out, there's 11 on this vehicle. So when you, one after another, when you can feel when the mains come out. And then it's like, okay, great. That's good. We're going to land a little softer than if we didn't have those. So that's a good thing, right? So it's like check, check. Next thing is, you know, the crew is then getting ready for the splashdown. So they're just making sure, you know, their bodies are in the right position. They're all strapped in as good as they can. And the splashdown, of course, itself, you know, okay, boom, we're down, and now let's make sure we're staying upright, because that would be good and not be, you know, turned over, which we call stable 2. So that's another check. And now I think they're just hanging out, waiting for the rescue forces to come get them. Just happy, you know, to have them back on the ground. It's really awesome.
And